Ms. Crane,
Here.
Ms. Eagley, Ms. Gonzalez,
She's here. I'm trying to get her moved over to panelist.
okay. Ms. Idry, Ms. Hagan,
Here.
Ms. Hano,
Yeah.
Ms. Harmon,
Present.
Ms. Simon, Ms. Jordan,
Here.
Dr. McKee,
Here.
Ms. Polazola,
Here.
Ms. Richard, Richard, Mr. Roca,
Here.
Mr. Rivera, Ms. Stewart, Ms. Carver, Ms. Taylor, Ms. Washington,
Here.
Ms. Webb,
Here.
Dr. Wilson,
And I think it's supposed to be Mr. Taylor. That's Eric.
oh, yes, Mr. Taylor, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yep. And I see Ms. Eagley, you have 18 present, so you have a quorum.
Okay, we do have a quorum. So thank you again. Hope you had a great lunch. We're gonna go ahead and proceed with the council meeting. I'm gonna make an amendment because Ms. Polazola has another obligation that's gonna require her to be gone within the time slot that was allowed for her to present. So at this time, next item up of business is report of the Governor's Office on Disability Affairs. The Chair recognizes Ms. Bambi Polazola. You have the floor.
Okay, everyone, mine is on the green, on the front page, we are promoting, the governor's, Outstanding Leadership and Disability Awards, which is our gold awards and the Inclusive Art Contest. Nominations need to be in by October 31st, as well as art submissions by October 31st. It is a big, event every year, really, really nice. So if you know people who you would like to nominate, you can put, you see the, you can either click on the link if you're online or at the bottom of that first page. There's the link that will bring you to the nomination, to make nominations. And for the, and you can kind of see we kind of talked about a lot of these things already, but like the State Interagency Coordinating Council for Early Steps. One thing I want to say about that is they need parents of children 12 and under who have disabilities to serve on the council. And the council, it's not a large commitment. It's not like the DD Council, which 2 days, it's actually only 2 hours every 3 months that the council meets. So it's not a large commitment. And if that parent would need an ADA accommodation to participate virtually, that is allowed. So if you know any parents who would be interested in that, I don't think I have Alicia's email on there. You could email me or email Alicia Valle, who's in my office, who oversees this council. And then we do have a new assistant director in our office, which I'm really glad to have, KJ Henry. She's been with the governor's office since he took office, but she was in constituent services, which is a great skill to have in our office. Because she's really good at knowing the resources and that type of thing for the calls that we and I think that's it from my report. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Polazola. Do we have any questions from any committee, council members in regards to the reports that were presented? Ms. Meredith, Jordan, recognized by Chair. You have the floor.
Bambi, I know y'all do a really nice recognition for the individuals in these contests. Is that a public event?
We have it at the Old State Capitol and it's going to be December 7th. So we are limited in space. So typically what we do is the honorees, as you can see, there's 14 awards. We allow them first off to be able to invite people, and we invite like our council members and that type of thing. So it's kind of like semi-public. We've never turned somebody away, but typically there is a limit on space. And I think it's like maybe 200 people. So yeah, we do the inclusive art contest like right before we recognize those individuals. And then the governor comes and takes pictures with everybody, and then we have our gold awards. And so, yeah, it's really, really nice event. And I'll just point out one change to our award. We've always had a Youth of the Year award, but this year we named it the April Dunn Youth of the Year. We thought that would be appropriate honor, and certainly an honor for whoever is the recipient of that award. So
What's the date again?
it's December 7th. It's on a Wednesday. It's at 1 o'clock. December 7th is the Wednesday, then I have the right date. Yes, December 7th at 1 o'clock at the old state capitol. Oh, and it will be streamed. So people can watch it that way. And we'll put that out in our newsletter and promote it.
Ms. Hayno, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair.
For the got to what the all y'all subcommittees on drawing of like where can I find like meeting summaries or like even what y'all have been doing like in each. Cause I noticed when I was reading Amy's report that a lot of staff sit on the or attended the committees for I'm drawing a complete name of the
GACTA, the Governor's Advisory Council on Disability Affairs.
that where can I find like summaries or like what's going on with like or updates from all the committees? Like
So-
can you say
Yeah,
You can't-
we posted on the Division of Administration, like the boards and commissions website, where everybody's supposed to post their meeting notices and meeting minutes. And so I don't have that linked in the report, but that's where we post that information. But our GACTA meetings will be the week of December, I think it's December 12th through the 15th. And we'll
can
have like,
you- Oh, I'm sorry, go on.
yeah, so we have the committee meetings. So we have an accessibility committee. We have a education committee, and a legislative committee. And then we have our full council meeting. And so we have virtual options for all of that. And really anybody can participate. It's a pretty, open type platform.
Can someone from the staff put the link in the chat, please?
For the boards and commissions,
Yes.
okay, if they can find it, yeah.
Okay. If we can accommodate you, Ms. Hayno. Do we have,
The one other thing that Jill brought to mind, the Emergency Management Disability and Aging Coalition, which is MDAC. We have a
Mhm.
link there, but we also are looking for people with disabilities to be engaged in that. It's very, very important that we have, people who experience disability to be engaged. While we have a pretty robust membership, and it's a large coalition. But I feel like we need to have more people with disabilities, like in kind of like a more prominent role in that. And so if anybody can join, but I'm just saying, like, specifically, we would like to have more people with disabilities to be in those discussions about disaster, and how we respond and prepare for disasters in the state.
any other questions from council members in regards to report that's been presented by Ms. Ozola Pagoda?
That's a senior, I'm a junior.
It's funny.
Ms. Gonzalez, you're not muted and we hear your background. Okay, Mr. Taylor, I see your hands, you recognize.
What you say when you say engage, you want people that's with disabilities that
To participate, just do whatever's needed. We don't meet like in a because it's a coalition. The MDAC is not like a council where there's a lot of rigid rules, and we kind of have it that way on Sherry's one of the leadership roles, but we want to have so we don't meet as often, but I do send out emails. We have meetings periodically. So yeah. You look like you're interested. Seems like I should put your email on the list. On the list now.
You've been voluntold.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Do we have any other council members with any questions regarding the report that's been presented by Ms. Polozola? Do we have any hands raised virtually?
No, sir, no hands raised.
Do we have any public comment in regards to the report that's submitted by Polozola?
No comments in the chat either.
Okay, this report requires no action and will be placed on file, moving forward. Next item of business is the report from the Department of Education. The chair uses the report of Ms. Meredith Jordan for her report. Ms. Jordan, you have the floor.
Okay, y'all. So we've had a busy start to the school year. So I'll go through each of these items here on our report. So we released a back to school guide for parents of students with disabilities. We shared that out with our Families Helping Families centers to kind of keep that as a tool in their toolbox as they are often helping parents navigate IEPs. What are some of those things going back to school that I haven't been in an IEP meeting in a while? We've had a break over the summer. What are some questions that I can ask? What do I ask about assessment? What do I ask about programming? So I linked that guide there. We also have it translated in multiple languages. So if you have any parents or families that you feel like this would benefit, definitely feel free to share that resource. So I'll talk about a couple of events that we've been launching. So I'll switch to the next piece on my report, which is around our SPED Fellow Academy. We have launched cohort 3 of that year-long professional development series for new special education directors in our state. So we really target directors who have 0 to 3 years of experience. And so in those initial years, really walking them through a cycle of learning. It's a year-long cycle of learning. They identify, they are required to complete an executive learning project during that year where they identify basically a problem of practice in their school system. And we walk them through that theory of action, how to develop that, how to take a look at a problem, determine a root cause, and come up with solutions around that. This particular cohort is our largest yet, which I'm really excited about. I know I really pushed on our team. I don't like to turn anyone away. So it's always hard for me to tell people no when they're asking for support and development. So we had 17 applicants and we accepted 17 individuals. So we have 17 in that cohort. We are also expanding this work and initiated our first cohort of, again, I'm terrible. I didn't turn anybody away at the cost of my team and a lot of work, but they're also excited about it. 21 individuals are in what we are calling an aspiring leadership cohort. So as we know, folks for various reasons are leaving these positions, are leaving school systems. We also need to be ready to recruit, train, and retain the next round of special education leaders in our state. So this group will also go through a year-long cycle of learning. In some cases, we may mix them with some of the veteran directors who are in our fellow academy. But we're really excited about this cohort. They are an excited and very inspirational group of people who are willing to and want to step into SPED director and leadership roles in school systems eventually. So we are happy about that. So there are 21 people in that particular cohort. That cohort will, like I said, it will not be as rigorous. They're going to have a mix of virtual and in person. Our fellows are all in person. All of their cycles of learning are in person. Of course, we're walking them through those executive learning projects. We have them pitch those to various panels of experts throughout the year until ultimately in May or June, they will pitch their final project and what it is they have begun or will launch in their school system to solve whatever their problem of practice was. But those 21 individuals will also have some opportunity to interact with them. They will not be required to do an executive learning project, so it's a little bit scaled back support. But perhaps these individuals, when they are promoted and get into a directorship, they will kind of have that their feet wet a little bit and will want to also then get in our Fellows Academy, which will dive a little bit deeper with them as a new director. So we're really excited. This is huge. It is a lot of work for my team, but something that we feel we have to continue to support our school system level special education leaders across our state. The next event that we have that I wanted to update you all on, back in August, we partnered with LASIA, our Louisiana Association of Special Education Administrators, to put on a 2-day event for a group of individuals that we haven't supported in quite some time. And those are pupil appraisal staff in our school systems. So educational diagnosticians, school psychologists, people acting in those eval coordinator roles as students are coming up for evaluation and determination of eligibility around special education. This is the group of people that we pulled together and led some development on. They were really excited about it. They were really thankful. They are hoping that it becomes an annual event. We haven't committed to that yet, but it's certainly something you all know how extensive it is to get up and running a lot of these events. But our partnership with LASIA for this really helped us be that. And we had over 200 pupil appraisals. Some of them brought their special education supervisors who also lead some of those pupil appraisal teams. And so we had over 200 people at that 2-day event in August. I also wanted to bring to this group, I know last time there were some questions and I've received some questions about Superintendent Brumley's Teacher Advisory Council and the representation to make sure there was special education represented on that council. So they held their first meeting. I linked you to the agenda that tells you also the individuals who were selected to lead, to be on that council. They held their first meeting in September. There are 22 educators from every Bessie region in our state, and they are going to meet quarterly. We do have individuals who have special education certification on the council, and also at least one, maybe two educators who also have gifted and talented. So, for those students who need, extensions and challenges in a different way. So I wanted to bring that. I know that was a question around this group and for some community members to make sure those populations were represented on that council. Next, I wanted to, you all are probably very well aware of the Big Literacy Initiative and push in our state around a reading revival and really supporting all of our youngest students to make sure that they are reading on grade level on time. One of the things that we are doing and partnering with our literacy team is to offer a couple of different supports. We now have legislation that requires all educators and administrators in K-3 to have specific training in science of reading. But one group of professionals that we had field questions around, right, were around paraprofessionals, support staff, interventionists. What about those people? How do we support them and supporting students who struggle to read? And so we have launched some professional development targeted just at those individuals, including paraprofessionals and support staff. So I wanted to bring that support here. And I linked to some of those resources and that support series for paraprofessionals and support staff. We have also launched, I think you all are familiar with our high cost service grant program. We are on our annual cycle, have launched our first round of that grant that really supports our school systems and schools serving students with the most challenging needs. They are able to submit applications. We have a portion of our state set aside that is required by OSIP for us to create a high cost service program. And so that is funded through our IDA 611 state set aside dollars. And school systems now are launching their first round of applications. And so they can request to fund specific excessive costs, for example, high dollar tech equipment for students who need communication devices, who need special transportation, who need one-on-one para support or specific individuals to support them. School systems can apply to receive additional funding to support those high cost needs. So we are launching that. School systems are going to be submitting their applications this month. The next piece here is something that I always bring here. I brought here last year. I think you all are used to being notified when we launch our waiver request to the U.S. Department of Ed and the Office of Special Education Programs, OSIP. So there is a federal requirement that states cap participation in alternate assessment at 1%. Historically, for years, we have exceeded that cap. Some years we are at 1.6, some years we're at 1.5, some years we are at 1.4%, most recently. And so it really depends on student population, student enrollment, where that participation falls every year. And so we are applying again for a waiver, and we've launched our notice of intent. So we're asking everyone, if you want to share this information, the public can submit comments around that waiver by emailing our special education email address here. We'd like those comments by the end of the month. We will be submitting our waiver in November, and we'll attach those to that waiver. That will help us get that approval that we need to ensure that our students have the access to the assessment deemed appropriate by their IEP team. And then lastly, wanted to tell everyone we launched our Related Service Advisory Commission that was established by Senate Resolution 31. It has 14 members. And this commission is charged with examining the ratio of service providers to students, the impact on related service implementation in our state. And we are realizing some of the overlap that we are going to have to work with the team that is doing the House Resolution 173 that we've noticed is also working on ratios, for example, for social workers, for school psychologists. So we are working on a plan to make sure we are communicating, because that work sounds like it is being duplicated across our Related Service Commission and the work of the House Resolution 173 group that's also looking at student behavior, health, welfare, those types of things. But part of that is around social workers and school psychologists. So we're going to have to make those connections. So membership on our Related Service Commission includes expertise in social work, OT, occupational therapy, school psychology, autism, speech pathology. We have family support represented, behavior analysis. We also have a special education administrator. We have a representative from the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs on that commission. We met for the first time on September the 7th, and we will be meeting again in November. And so our first meeting was really around looking at the regulations, discussing goals, looking at current policy around these ratios, and kind of getting input from all of those different levels of expertise. We also use sort of a common, SWOT analysis. What are our strengths in our state? What are our weaknesses? where there are opportunities for us to make an impact. And so we compiled that information once the group recorded all of that. We did some small group discussion. We'll bring that back along with at our next meeting. We'll be looking at a lot of the data that we are going to pull out of our data system that will show us what are the majority of the related services look like in our state, if we can, what's being provided on a consultative basis versus having full-time employees. We're going to be also, the commission is going to develop a stakeholder survey because a lot of information, we just need to poll school systems to see how many of these individuals do you have employed versus are you having to contract out some of these services, and what is the impact of that? What does that look like? So we will meet again in November. And then just to kind of announce to you all here, our next SEEP meeting is November the 16th, but let me verify that. The third Wednesday, the 16th. So definitely wanted to share that date with everyone here too. And that concludes my report.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Are there any council members that have any questions about what has been presented? Okay. Not seeing any. Do we have any council members that have questions on, okay, the Vice Chair Banks, your hand is raised, you're recognized by the chair. You got the floor. Vice Chair Banks, you're still muted.
I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so I was listening to the advisory council, and you said that you guys just not have that in place, correct? Is that a diverse council?
For the Related Service Commission, that membership was set out in legislation.
So people had to vote upon this?
No, so the organizations that were named nominated or told us who they wanted to represent that organization on the panel. So there was no vote on membership.
Oh, so it's not diverse, and it's not you know, kind of, it's not equality, you know, because that's what we all strive for, right? Or is that not what you guys do up on that council? On that board, I'm sorry.
It's all set out in legislation. We had no say. Like I said, there was no vote. It was, here are the organizations that you have to reach out to nominate a person to represent on the council.
There's no really stipulations to having a diverse selection. It's just whoever they said and whoever they chose then it is, right? Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That everybody is really represented, and then that everyone's best interest up in this particular issues that we're trying to tackle with this board. How do we know that that is gonna take place?
We're gonna do everything we can. I'm working with we have two co-chairs that we are working to support to move forward the work of that legislation as it is outlined. It is very specific as to what that commission is to do and the recommendations to that they should take care of. So I'm going to do everything I can, Ms. Banks, to support them to do what it is that it's outlined to do.
Okay. Well, that was my only question with everything, you know, but you guys are doing good work.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
Just got a question over there. Y'all are working on 1508 with this too, right? Revising 1508?
Potentially that could be a recommendation. Yep, on those ratios.
Okay.
And 741.
Okay.
741 has some ratios in it.
Okay.
I'm interject for me. I'm gonna preference something. For those of you who are virtual, we may have a hiccup with our system in about the next 13 minutes. It's logging up to do an automatic reset of the computer. If that be the case, as soon as we can get it back up, we'll make everything back online. But I just wanted to make you aware that they're doing their best to try to make sure that they can put it on snooze, but technology is about like some people I know, sometimes just won't do right.
Technology.
Do we have any more questions in regards to the council meeting? The report that was presented?
You see, not now. Telling her now, and they ain't gonna do it.
We do have a statement in the chat from Ms.
Okay.
Kathy Dwyer.
Yes,
Did I
ma'am.
hear correctly? Special education teacher representation on the teacher council are 2 gifted/talented teachers? And when did we lose the related services commission?
Yes, so you did hear correctly, Mr. Dwyer. There is special education certification and gifted talented represented on the superintendent's teacher advisory council. And what was your second question about related services?
When did we lose the related services commission?
It just started, so it's not lost. It just started in September.
Okay. Do we have any more questions in regards to the report that was presented by Ms. Jordan from the Department of Education, any council members? Not seeing any. Do we have any more public anything from public chat or comment in regards to the report that's just been presented?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jordan. This report requires no action and will be placed on file. Next item up for business is report from the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs. Ms. Crane, there she is here. The chair recognizes Ms. Sherry Crane. You have the floor.
Thank you. My report is yellow and it was the one that was not in the folder. Sorry. So currently at the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs, we, all of our councils are back up and running after COVID, a few shutting down, having the spurts of, COVID and then having to close for a couple of weeks, but they are currently open and running. Our ombudsman care, long-term care ombudsman is started a new program and it is called LA Peer, the Louisiana Program for Empowering Every Resident. We started the program as a series of interactive training sessions for long-term care residents. The program trains individuals on long-term care facilities to advocate for themselves through a 6-part empowerment program and teaches them to help their fellow residents to improve day-to-day life in their home, in the facility. The residents are trained to think in terms of advocacy and act as problem solvers through critical thinking.
Ms. Crane, I apologize. I'm gonna have to interrupt you for a minute.
Sure.
Because the technology, so the system doesn't shut itself down, I'm gonna call a break so they can go ahead and hook up another monitor, hook up another system. So for those that are online, to make sure that we don't lose this meeting, I'm gonna go ahead and call a break. I'm gonna ask everyone to reconvene in about, what, 15 minutes? Okay, I'm gonna call a 10-minute break. I'm gonna call a 10-minute break. I apologize again for interrupting you, but I didn't want to shut down. Then they try to attempt it, and they have a larger problem.
I'm good.
Tell everybody that. Log on. We need to log on.
Right.
Okay, we'll call back to order. Thank you so much for understanding in the midst from the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs. We're back in, so, Ms. Crane, thank you for allowing me to interrupt. My apologies, but if you will, please proceed with your report.
Sure. So I was kind of just talking about the new program that we have under our ombudsman, where the residents are trained to think in terms of advocacy and act as problem solvers through critical thinking. Louisiana is the third state in the nation to establish this, train the residents of self-advocate program. The peer program takes on its own style of flavor in Louisiana, of course. We started it in June of this year. And Louisiana's first Lapeer graduating class received their certificates of training on June 30th at the St. Jude's Health and Wellness in New Orleans, the first facility in Louisiana to embrace the Lapeer program. The initial focus was in the New Orleans area, but the goal is to expand the program throughout the state. There are 257 nursing homes in Louisiana with a consensus count of over 22,000 residents. The ombudsman staff and volunteers currently are less than 50 for the entire state. There is a need for self-advocacy program like Lapeer. Our funding that we received in order to start this program came through the ARPA 2 funding, which gave us the opportunity to also contract with a Lapeer trainer to actually train the residents in the program and try to drum up more volunteers throughout the state. So we're really excited about that and to see how far that goes. And then on the second page, I wanted to talk a little bit about our elderly protective services. We do give some statistics. As of July 1st, 2022, we have opened 1,264 cases. So if you realize that is only a 3-month period. Of those cases, 118 were classified as high priority. 769 cases were classified as medium priority. So I did give a breakdown on the types of reports that we do receive. If you add those cases up that are on the type of cases, which includes caregiver neglect, extortion, physical abuse, self-neglect, it does come up to more than the 1,264 cases. The reason is in a quarter's time, we may open so many cases, but we do close way more than that because of the previous quarter. It kind of rolls over. We open them in one quarter and we might not close it till the second quarter. We did receive some ARPA funding for that program as well. So we are working on training staff more. We are also working on training law enforcement and a few other entities. We're looking at attorney general offices throughout the state to coordinate with them as well. Then we have our aging and disability resource centers. They're still working on a COVID grant for vaccines. They still have that going and trying to promote the boosters and stuff. So there's really nothing really new going on there right now. And then into our MIPA program, which is the Medicaid and Services Low Income Subsidy Program, and then our savings plan. So we closed out one grant, which was from 2020. Our 2021 was extended 12 more months, and then we just started our new grant October 1st, which will go through June. So we have, that's like 9 mini grants, even though they're capped 3. So a lot going on there to help those seniors with their Medicaid enrollment, which opened October 15th, and it will run through December 7th every year. Other than that, that's really the end of my report, other than just mentioning that, you know, we still work with MDAC, as Bambi said earlier, which is the Emergency Management for Disabled and Aging Coalition. And that is about it. Nothing else new right now.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Crane. Do we have any council members with any comments or questions about the report that's just been presented? Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs.
Jill Hano has her hand raised.
Ms. Hano, you recognize. Jill, you have the floor. You recognize.
You're muted, Jill.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
You said something, the long-term care ombudsman program was under some other initial, you guys, I don't know. You got a new program under the long-term care ombudsman program?
Correct. So the state ombudsman has always been a program, and we
Okay.
received funding and we started this new program under that. Yes.
Okay, and what's the name of the new program?
It's Louisiana Program for Empowering Every Resident. And for
L-
short, it's LA Peer.
LA
PEER.
Peter?
Peer, PEER is the acronym.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other council members with any questions in regards to the report that's been presented? Not seeing any. Do we have any public comment in regards to the report that's been presented by the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs?
There are no hands raised or comments in the chat.
All right. So with that being said, thank you again, Ms. Crane. Your report requires no action and it'll be placed on file. Next item up for business is the report of the Bureau of Health Services, Finance, and Medicaid. The chair recognizes Ms. Tara LeBlanc for this
I
report.
think it's Ms. Shannon Biggins.
Okay.
She may be the proxy.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Shannon Bibbins.
Thank you, Dr. Bibbins. I apologize for overlooking you.
No worries. So I'll be sitting in for Tara LeBlanc and representing the Bureau of Health Services Financing, also known as Medicaid. We are an agency under the Louisiana Department of Health. The report that has been submitted has been identified as the Turquoise report, and I will give the updates. I'll start off by mentioning our fiscal year 2022 LDH business plan. Just for record, fiscal year 22 is comprised of dates July 1, 2021 through June 30th of 2022. And so we are in the process of finalizing the final outcomes report, which will be released to the public later this month, October. And so the report will detail the number of deliverables that were completed as well as the goals that were met during fiscal year 22. I am proud to say that over 95% of the business plan's deliverables were completed and 36 of 42 goals were met. So I'll highlight those Medicaid goals, which were met. We had 5 initiatives and 5 goals that were met, which include developing a comprehensive dental program for adults over the age of 21 enrolled in an IDD waiver, increase the number of adult Medicaid members with controlled high blood pressure and diabetes, establish university partnerships in fiscal year 22 to conduct projects that identify and address 3 challenges or opportunities in LDH. Next, launch the Workforce Development Training Program and train 100 individuals in the pilot phase, with 25% of the pilot enrollees being a current Medicaid recipient. And then award MCO contracts, as the managed care organization contracts that incorporate broad stakeholder feedback and suggestions, resulting in increased accountability, improved health management, and reduced health disparities for individuals assessing Medicaid services. As you can see within the report, We also highlighted some other areas and agencies. Some of this may have already been reported. I know Julie presented her report on OCDD, and some of the other agencies may have some of this information included as well. But as the Bureau of Health Services Financing, we do work to partnership with other agencies to make sure that those Medicaid recipients and those waiver recipients are able to receive services. In addition, the fiscal year 2023 LDH business plan is going to be released simultaneously with the final outcomes from fiscal year 2022. And as I mentioned, the plan is to release that before the end of this month. But just for record, some of the areas that the department will be focusing in on will be maternal health, behavioral health, healthcare workforce, chronic disease, and continuing to focus on improving internal LDH culture, strengthening external partnerships with stakeholders, and improving transparency and compliance. And then we include some additional initiatives that are listed in the report. One other key focus area right now is provider enrollment. And so CMS has mandated provider enrollment, and it applies to any provider that provides care to Medicaid members. And so the deadline for those providers to submit an enrollment application has been extended. It was extended to September 30th. We're now past that date. And so we're really working with providers, providing additional training, encouraging the providers to get those applications submitted, because claims will be denied beginning December 31st of this year for providers who have not completed the enrollment process. So again, we're working very closely trying to encourage all providers to submit those applications prior to then. So that concludes my report. Right now, I wanted to highlight those things. You do all have a copy of the report, and I'll now accept any questions that anyone may have.
At this time, are there any questions from the committee for Dr. Bibbins' report? Do we have any questions from the virtual attendees from the City Council on this report?
There are no hands raised or comments in the chat.
Okay, hearing none, this report will be accepted into record as it stands. Our chair has returned.
Thank you so much for that. Moving forward, next report will be presented by the Disability Rights Louisiana. The chair recognizes Tori Roca.
Thank you.
You got the floor.
Appreciate it. So this report is a summary of the activities of our Community Living Ombudsman program. It's the program in which trained advocates known as ombudsmen advocate for people with developmental disabilities who live in the over 500 state licensed privately run group homes across the state. On behalf of some residents, we met with OCDD staff regarding sun screenings for group home residents seeking waiver placement. There were concerns that some of the residents were not being found eligible for waivers due to issues with sun screenings. So we're working with OCDD staff on that. Between June 1st and October 1st, our ombudsman filed 10 complaints with LDH's health standards section. We're in charge of license and compliance. The complaints included 2 sudden and questionable deaths of residents, 1 allegation of severe understaffing, 11 allegations of neglect of resident health, 1 allegation of lack of access to medical care, 2 allegations of improper behavior planning, 3 allegations of unsafe building conditions, 1 allegation of financial concerns or misuse, 1 allegation of physical assault by another resident, 1 allegation of physical assault by staff, and 1 allegation of neglectful evacuation conditions. And the report is very short this month, so that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Roca. Does anyone have any comments or questions in regards to the report that was presented by Disability Rights for Louisiana? I see the council members with any questions. And do we have any virtual? Not seeing any council members. Do we have any public comment in regards to the report that was presented by Disability Rights Louisiana?
No, sir.
Not seeing none. This report is information to be recorded into record. We've already taken a break, so I'm gonna bypass that and we're ahead of schedule for public comment. But before we go any further, am I missing anything? I just want to make sure. I don't think so. So at this point, do we have any public comment?
There are no hands raised or comments in the chat.
Well, that being said, since we have no public comment, we're moving into announcements. Next quarterly meeting will be held January 18th and 19th of 2023.
Does anybody else have any?
Does anybody have any announcements?
I'd like to make a comment back to people.
Chair recognizing Mr. Jim Sprinkle, Families Helping Families Across Road. You got
I just want to say that this is a great place. So happy to see people together and working together after the COVID passed. I've been director for 22 years, ups and downs. It's one of the best I've ever seen. Where does it sound?
Thank you for that.
Do you want to repeat your comment?
They said they can't hear you. Yeah.
Might want to repeat that. Leave that on record.
Okay. I'm Jim Sprinkle, Director of Families Helping Families of Region 6. I have held numerous other positions over the last 22 years. And I wanted to say this is one of the finest meetings I've been to in such a long time. I've been almost every DD council meeting for the last 22 years. And everybody's here seems happy, upbeat. The dark cloud is gone. And God bless you all. I'm still directing at 71.
Thank you, Mr. Any other announcements? Since there's no further business.
Everybody check your email.
Ms. Haven, check your email. Since there's no further business, if there's no objection, we will adjourn this meeting at 2:04 p.m.